our next basic concept we're gonna talk about is BHD, ball handler dribbler, and I think Matt, you got a little preview earlier today in his game, so Jessica J-Dub is gonna break it down for you.
I will do my best. It's funny how she mentioned things that we hate doing, but we have to, because BHD is one of those things, quite honestly, for a little bit. So, I'm a teacher, teach 3rd grade. So, objectives and success criteria. So, today we're working on understanding what the BHD rule is and how to implement it. And we'll know when we're successful when we can recognize and call it in your own games today and forever. I wish Julie Mitchell was here because this is her jam. And if she has talked to you on your court about it, or if you've ever been on her courts before, you know, like BHD. And it just, well, we'll talk about the why. So, what is the point of BHD? What is the point? Why do we have it in our games? I'll take shout outs. What do we think? Protecting the guards. Protecting the guards from what?
Hand slaps.
From getting beat up. Hand slaps.
Hand
Like,
checks.
I challenge you to a duel.
Just checking, you know,
Okay.
the whole, you know, hand sneeze.
Stop it, protecting the guards.
Ruby.
Ruby.
From getting beat up though. That's how she finished it. Protecting the guards, anything else? I heard, what's that? Yes.
If they let the point guards run their play, so they are the quarterback, if they are running, so if they can't go to their setup, they can't.
Okay, so let the point guards run. Any others?
Protecting the rebounders?
Rebounders? Sure. Okay, we'll get into that.
Minimize
Scoring.
frustration, buildup,
Minimize frustration, buildup,
retaliation.
and retaliation.
Also, just the flow of the game.
Listen.
What?
No, I didn't see.
The flow of the
Throw in your
game.
voice. Okay. Yeah, game flow for sure. So all that protecting the dribbler, letting them, the quarterback, let them. I kind of hate when we mix sports like that. Like at the end of at the game, we're like, we want to throw balls and strikes when we're calling. That's baseball. We want to call our plays, right?
As
I
a
hate when we
baseball
mix that.
umpire, that's a very vague reference right there. Balls and strikes, very
Yeah.
split.
Yeah, but I understand, like, but the point guard is a point guard 111. So, all that is freedom of movement, right? Like, we want the game to flow. We want the game to flow. And when they can't even bring the ball up the court because they're being harassed, then there's no flow, okay? When is a player a ball handler dribbler? For high school. I mean, different for different levels, I'm talking NFHS rule book.
Play with the ball.
When they have the ball,
And they're not in a shooting motion.
and they're not in a shooting
Right,
motion.
doesn't that change into a shooter instead of a?
What's the rule book say?
When they're facing the basket
When they're facing the basket
with the ball.
with the ball. Rule book says when the player receives the ball. That's the high school rule. NFHS includes post players. Once you have the ball in high school, you're a ball handler dribbler. If you, she gave the wrong answer. What's she gonna take?
Because she said something. She took a risk.
Damn,
She took a risk and said something, as opposed to going, I don't know the answer. I'm gonna
One of
try.
your partners said you were grapefruit chief, so consider that the ticket.
Can I get another ticket?
No.
Hey, tickets, Jeff.
This is different, this is unusual if you work other levels, but for high school.
Thanks.
If the player's shooting, at that point, we don't want you to call a hand check. Even if there's a a stayed hand on a shooter. If it's enough to affect the shot, you can call a push, but we don't wanna call a hand check out of that one. Ball handler dribbler. Okay, so, what constitutes a BHD foul? 2 hands on the dribbler.
Armbar.
Armbar, let's see if we're right. Extended armbar. I see you.
Stayed hand.
Stayed hand, ooh, we're going in order. High school says placing and keeping a hand on the player. Multiple touches, that's college verbiage.
Alternating hands.
Multiple touches, college verbiage. Alternating hands, so, contacting a player more than once with the same hand or alternating. And I saw Tamika back there reminding. Those are the 4 in the NFHS rulebook. We see some more than others, depending on the game. But those are all fouls, even in the post. So far, so good?
Yep.
So great.
When should you anticipate a BHD foul? When do we see them?
On drive.
First step.
On drives?
Full court press.
Hold on. No, you said something, then you started chewing. On drives to the basket?
Yep.
Okay,
I'm all on drive.
okay,
He drives from backboard as well.
okay, okay. I heard.
During
what
the
else?
dribble. Was there dribbling?
Just on the dribble.
And attacking the basket, trying to run your plays?
On the dribble, sure, so, like, think about if you see, the offense doing a dribble handoff, basically the weave, right? You might really see the stayed hand up there, maybe even the arm bar if they're trying to, get around the screen. When else might we see it?
When the post player's backing down, like.
Sure, yes, in high school, that's illegal. When else might we see it?
Change the direction. Kind of pick and roll. I guess that would be a drive.
I would say, yeah, maybe when they're trying to get over the screen, sure, there might be that extended, or that stayed hand. Some things I think about, and I think we kind of called it out, I call it, well, it's not my verbiage, but the blow by, if someone just blows, and I think Doug, you were trying to say that, when someone just blows by, you'll see the hands reach out, because they got beat. Might see one, might see both. The rip and go, especially on the perimeter, right? When someone just rips through, they got burned. Oh, put 2 hands there right away. The NBA defense in the post. We cannot do that in the post in high school. Once they start backing down in the post, our defense has to do this. It stinks to call this because you have to explain to everybody. Because everywhere else I see it on TV, and maybe one day college or high school can change that. But right now,
They're a ball
if they got the ball, they're ball handler dribbler. The turn and face. I think maybe someone said that. You see that? You might see the stayed hand there where, if I'm the high post and I get the ball and I turn, if there's a hand here, give it a beat, don't do the gotcha, gotcha. But if it's a stayed hand check. Okay, so that's usually when you can anticipate it. They're really all over the place. It's kind of like holding in football where they say, you call hold every play. You could call some BHD stuff, but we really want them to be, they're there, but we have to anticipate because they will wreck your game if you let them go. Okay. Where is it in your book? Now this is 22, 23, so maybe it moved with the new ones. I haven't gotten the new one yet. But where is it in your book? In case you don't know this stuff, or you forget, or you want the verbiage. Yeah? Do you know from memory?
I just
You
cheated
just
and
open
looked
up.
like 5 minutes ago if you
No,
want to answer.
does anyone know from memory? Has anyone gone there and looked?
I knew it's in the it's in the back of the book too, Jess.
It's in the what?
It's in the back, in the appendixes too.
Oh, it's in the appendix.
That I do know.
Appendices?
Appendices, thank you. Appendices. That I know.
She needs another tip.
I need a ticket, Leslie.
How dare you?
Good looking out, Dwayne. Dwayne got my back.
10, 7, 12. So that's where it is right now. Again, when we get our new books, maybe move, because they'll be doing some other stuff with where the ball's coming in and yada, yada, yada. But right now, trust but verify.
Page 75, too. That's the
10,
summary.
7, 12. So far, so good?
Yeah.
Alright, good.
All the
We have 15
legal
minutes.
contacts.
Alright, what does it look like? Let's find out. Now, something I want to say, a couple things. We are more hesitant to call it in boys basketball. We're just let them play, let them play, let them play. We have to, because then they're more likely to beat each other up, maybe like figuratively and then literally. Although girls are coming up with the fighting, so woo-hoo. But we can, yes, sir.
Just a quick question on the hand check, and this is something you see a lot, especially, I guess probably in the boys more so. It's a real fine area, they get that quick hot stove, but they're really good about using that quick hot stove if they get beat to stop them.
Well, your hot stove is different than
Would that be more of a hold,
a
or?
state hand. So in women's college, we specifically state you're allowed one measure of a hot stove touch. We specifically state that in high school, it's just boom, 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 boom. So here's where the judgment comes in, and we don't want the gotcha, tweet, gotcha, you got, gotcha, like,
Right.
but, you know, there's no mention of a hot stove touch, but
Right.
if it's a state hand, we gotta give it.
Okay. But the reason I'm saying is because they're do really quickly, I mean, they're beat, you know what, real quick, and that's just, I mean, it's just like that, but it's enough to stop the momentum of
Okay,
that
well,
player.
we'll look at some clips and.
And that came at, and they can't make that turn, simply because they did.
Well, okay then, if it's preventing them, then we gotta call that foul.
Okay.
For sure, okay, so let's,
Just a push and not
did anyone else, okay, so boys basketball, so, I was doing the Curtis Spring League, I guess, and I'm cool with the coach, I rep for the coach for his men's rep, and I'm repping, these high school boys, and it's like, it's in the first 2 minutes of the game, and the defender gets, he's about to get beat, it's a rip and go, he's about to get beat. So he just full on places one hand on the shoulder, one hand on the hip to try and slow him down. Go tweet, hands, and the player says, honestly, that's some female type shit right there.
Yes,
Tweet.
Here goes
Another tweet.
I teed him up, and then I asked Brittany Lassiter, I texted them later, I asked Brittany Lassiter, I asked Jillian Quinn, and I asked Sean Martin, I just did a text, and I said, hey, this happened, I explained everything. I said, what would you do? And they said, toss him, just toss him. I asked my friend Caitlin Bunger, she's in the G League, I said, what would you do? She said, toss him. Because anytime they make it personally derogatory, toss him, and I was like, ugh. But that's how unused to hand checks boys basketball is. So it's gonna take some
That wasn't a
time.
handshake though.
Yes, it was.
That was a hold and grab.
No, two hands.
Two hands.
It was 2 hands. No, it was just 2 hands. He didn't like drag him down. He got beat 2 hands. I wish it was on film. I don't have it, so it's extremely good. Yeah, that's how much boys basketball hates it. So just heads up, you're gonna get some pushback. But we gotta do it. So to really hammer home my point, let's see if I can do this. And then we'll show some clips. Well, these are clips. So it is on the NBA's, this is in the NBA rules. They do, and this is open to anyone, they have a video rule book where they update their stuff. They have clips on handshakes. If you want to see what a handshake looks like in the NBA, because they call handshakes, maybe not very often, but they call it, it's here. So grown men getting paid millions cannot stick their hand up. It's hard to see on this play, but then when you see the slow motion, you'll see, here, stayed hand, just stick it out. That's not hot stove, look at, okay, right there. That's hands. Once you see someone get beat and they stick their arm out, that's a foul, call it, easy peasy. Okay? No, I don't want this one, sorry, let me find the other hand check. This one, you wanna know what multiple touch looks like? It's a little old, this is classic multiple touch. Gotcha, 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 look at me playing good, look at me. That's a foul, it's easy, Dwight Howard hates it, tough break, champ. That's a foul, right there, foul, foul. Foul. It's a foul. Yeah. So, if they're calling it in the NBA, we can call it, right? Okay. So, here are some clips when I have or have not called it, and we can. I titled them, so I won't say, you know, what is it, what are. So, but what we can talk about is when should this be called?
Right there.
And someone say stop.
Stop.
Frame 2.
Right there. A little bit.
So
Like
grabs
she
the
reaches
head.
out, what is that? That's a blow by. Or a ripping go, either one. She got beat, what's she gonna do? Get beat? No, reach out right there. And look at me just watching, I see the whole thing, I'm like, yeah, there it is, that's a hand check. Arm bar. No foul, play on. Call the foul. Okay. Oh, this was yesterday I showed up. Yesterday. It's in boys basketball, we can call this. Tell me when we call the foul. When we should call the foul.
Stop.
He's about to get beat, he reaches out. Is it like locked arm, stereotypical hand check? No, but right there, okay? He's about to get beat, he reaches out. If we call that, because now look, this guy's getting mugged all the way to the hoop, loses the ball, you know, we gotta call it. Here's a stayed hand, I got it. Yay. Okay, getting over the post, or getting over the pick, I think you mentioned that, right? On a pick and roll, getting over the pick, they'll stay connected with that foul. Coaches don't like it. Or they love it, depends on.
Yeah.
You get the little sitting pick and push them out.
One thing to do is consistency.
Alternating hands. What do we got going? Oh, yeah. Hands. So she reaches out with one, then the other. Hands. No, college, we have a different mechanic. So in high school, all 4 instances, tweet, hand check. Then if the coaches ask, you know, we still report to the table, white 11, hand check. Then if we want to be specific, if the coaches are like, what'd you do wrong? You can say multiple touch or extended arm bar. But technically, in our rule book, as far as I know, it's one signal for them all. I think, I could be wrong, Washington may be allowed an arm bar signal. That feels familiar to me. Yeah, that feels familiar to me, but we don't have the 2 hands signal in high school yet. The other thing now in high school is that we're inbounding at the 4 spots, right? So that's what we have been doing in college. So I call a foul at the spot, and then I point to where it's gonna be inbounded. Right there, okay?
Question?
Yes, sir.
So this actually came up earlier today. Calling it a hand check outside and then inside the lane, calling it a hold, a push, or something like that.
So it just depends on what the player's doing, because once they're like starting to get to the hoop, the handshake's the most deflating call, right? It's like, you guys have to call that, let them play, right? So it's just a little like massaging on our parts where we might see it, but like I said, don't call a handshake on a shot, call it a push.
Yeah.
You might still see that hand there.
Yeah.
But we're just massaging it, we're making everyone feel better.
Yeah.
You know? But definitely outside the free throw line extended and the 3-point line, if we see handshake armbar, we can call it a handshake or an armbar. Yeah. Yes?
So for handshakes, I've been coached by other officials in my association where, like, say the ball's on top of the key and they rip and go past their defender and they're getting hand checked all the way as they go, but there's no defender between dribbler and the basket. I've been told to not call that and wait for the result of the shot, and if they miss it, call the hand check, and if they make it, play on. Is there anything
I'm
like
not
that?
calling a handshake after a missed layup.
Okay.
So I think what freedom of movement, we want players to score. We want scoring in basketball. So I understand what they're trying to tell you is that, you know, advantage, disadvantage, right? But if it's out at the top of the key, we're saying get it now. Get it before you have to make that decision.
Okay.
Once it passes below the free throw line, then it gets messy anyway. You know, because there's going to be help defenders, and it could be an open layup, and then you waited too long. We're saying if it's out like what you just described, if it's out, you know, above the 3-point line, maybe not this far out, but
Right there.
yeah, that's get it early. Just get that, because you don't want to play guessing games, and I definitely don't want to call a handshake because they missed the layup.
Okay.
All right, we'll show a couple more because it's almost time. Ooh, this is from last night. It's gonna happen out here. Boom, boom, rip and go, okay? So if you anticipate plays like this, then we can work on our angles. Okay, he's reaching out. Basketball, we're allowed to be vertical as defense. Once we break our vertical plane, if we cause illegal contact, that's a foul. Okay? That's a foul. This one's a little tough to see, but a rip and go. If you anticipate the rip and go, then you'll see the foul. So even knowing, yes, these are the 4 things for ball handler dribbler, but knowing like when they happen, you'll be more likely to call it. BHD in the post. Now in college, you have to wait for them to face up to the basket, but in high school, it doesn't matter, right? This is a foul. You got a hand in the post. And you have some explaining to do, because that defense was just like, I was just here. You'll have to clarify. Can't have hands in the post. Oh, look at who I was reffing with back then. It was my trail. The new GMAT assigner. This was me 6 years ago. Look at my delay.
Oh my gosh, I was playing.
Wait,
No, that was the year before I came.
Okay.
No, that was the year before I came.
So I got this one, but look at how late I am. Say when I should call it foul, because it ain't when I call it. There, right? Like rip and go. Once you know what's happening, you'll anticipate it, you'll call it. Right there, once she's reaching out, yes, sir.
Can I ask, like, were you giving her a chance to get to the basket to get?
I wasn't that good. I was just like, I didn't like calling. This is 2017. I didn't like calling BHD, you know, like, especially as a former player, you're like, oh, they can play through, but don't let them play through BHD. Right there, call it. Because we have the support of the rule book, right? we have to support the rule break, so we can call it. She's about to get burned, she didn't chop her feet, she's about to get blown by on the rip and go. Foul, 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 foul. Oh, I got it, okay? That was me 6, 7 years ago. This was me last year. Rip and go. Oh, I got it right there. See, we can get better. I don't like my signal there, not feeling great about my presentation, but I got that foul. And you can see she reaches out and then shows 2 hands, right? Don't let him fool you. Recognize when it's gonna happen and get it. Just get it. And then when you get on both sides and you get your partners on board, hey, we're calling that tonight. Yes.
What do you do when your partners aren't on board? So you're calling it by the rule book early, to try to nip it early, and they're like, you've already called 3 of those, and it's only 2 minutes in the game.
Okay, so you have options if they want to battle you.
That's a great question.
You can battle back, but
That's a great
one thing you can do is say, I'm calling BHD, I'm seeing a state hand. Am I missing something? You can play dumb. Am I missing something? Because I thought I had a hand check there. Or you can say, because what you can't do is ball watch and be like, that was a hand check in your area, you need to get it, right? But you can say, those hand checks are plain as day to me, maybe you guys aren't having them in your area, but I'm seeing them, and we gotta clean the game up, you know? It's uncomfortable. If you rep with old school refs, they don't wanna call it. If you rep boys basketball, a lot of them don't wanna call it.
I gotta say, I worked a 3-man game, and our crew chief said we're calling hand checks. We called it for probably about the first 3 minutes of the first quarter. That was the easiest game.
Then they disappear.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I was gonna add to that, cause I worked with the crew, we were working a boys game, and I was working with a guy who's been to the state tournament probably 25 times, another guy who'd been a lot. I mean, they're probably between the 2 of them 80 years of officiating experience, and I'm the rookie with them, and the kids are beating themselves up, and so instead of, I says, hey, because I think we talk about how do we think the game's going, and I says, what do you think, you know, I talked about, you know, it seems like there's a lot of contact on the ball handler. Do you think maybe if we tried calling a few of these calls, maybe that would clean up the game? And they took the suggestion and they were like, man, that really helped. So there is a way to work with some of the old school folks without seeming forceful, but, you know, just kind of suggesting.
If you have a 2 o'clock game.
And offering stuff. But,
Yes,
hopefully
thank you,
help.
totally. Yes.
That's also your
So-
pregame though, right?
I may not say this the right way, but talk about, so in my mind, I'm just gonna think out loud. There's we don't want to take away the scoring opportunity. We also want to make sure that the illegal contact has impacted their RSBQ. What is the point? What's your point where between your 6 years ago where you're like, oh, that's hella late, and then last year you're like, boom, foul. Like, how do you gauge when to make that call? Because if she's beat, like, do we really want to blow that if she's beat and she's got a wide open layup?
We have to call it before she officially blows by. So for me, and not just for me, for the rules, there is no RSBQ in high school or college. It is in the NBA. You might have seen it up there. They do have that in the NBA. But for us, hand checks, especially outside the lane, are as black and white as we get. We get to call it automatic. And so that takes the judgment out. So 6 years ago, I was still playing, quite honestly. So I'm a player, I'm gonna play. And so I'm like, well, she's gonna get by her and I don't wanna take away a layup. And now it literally is just, that's a foul, I have to call it.
Yeah.
That's a foul, I have to call And
'Cause
it's gonna be hard at the high school level, cause people don't like it.
Yeah, and I think that's what plays into our blow it, don't blow it.
Yeah.
Because we don't wanna take away the scoring opportunity.
And then you and I are doing men's rec, and we're not touching hand
I don't
checks.
know.
Unless they get bodied out of the key on a dribble drive to the basket, right?
Yeah.
Like, we're not gonna touch it in men's rec. So you have to be able to, you have to know the gym you're in, right? And then if you're doing, AAU, you're gonna wanna call some. You're gonna wanna call. You're doing men's rec, work on your signals, you're not calling hand checks. That's a great question, cause it's hard.
Cause you see it, and you're like, oh yeah, that's a foul. Oh yeah, well, he's beat.
Uh-huh.
Well, I got next one. Cause he'll do it again. That's like in my mind. If you do it once, you'll do it again. I'll pop the next one if I just missed that first one, but
Right, and it's the difference of missing it versus choosing not
passing
to.
it, yeah.
Passing it, yep. Here's one, those are good questions. Here's one, the turn in face, we see sometimes. Oh, no, that's not what I wanted. I mislabeled that, but still, it was a little, this one was a little rip and go. Right? But there's an arm bar there, okay? And there's a difference between extended and collapsed. Don't go calling, arm bars when they're running alongside, okay? Our rules say extended arm bar. The defense cannot extend. If they have their chicken wing here and they're running alongside, it's not a hand check foul. It might be a foul in another way, maybe they're like bodying them, but it's not a hand check foul. So referee the defense, if you see that arm bar and some space in between, that's your hand check foul. I think I got one more and then I'm out. Oh, this one, sometimes you have that transition from trail to C, right?
Oh, somebody was talking about this morning.
And so because I missed the first one, now we have a double whistle on the second one. Gotta get it. This was 2018, 5 years ago. I was not good enough to get it automatically done. But now, where my C has to bail me out because I passed on the first one. And you can see how it's affecting the play, right? Just get the first one. It's as black and white as we can be. Okay, they're gonna yell at you. Have fun. Any questions?
Bye.
All right, thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Tamika,
Yep.
that's a good question.
I'm sorry.
When I think about what he said this morning, it's like calling the obvious.